Broadcasting Network 77 to 37, your file. For my broadcast colleague Tyler Sorensen, I'm Peter Frary. Coach, I don't know how else to put it, but you and I spoke earlier today, and I felt pretty confident as an announcer, but everything clicked. Everything was coming up Carthage. What was it today?
Yeah, you're right. Everything clicked, and now I said in the huddle at the end, now we know what that feels like, and we have to do it every day, not just in games. It has to be in practice. But I think, honestly, the difference maker was that we out-rebounded them by 33? No, my math is not good. We out-rebounded them by a lot, and that was the key, was that it was really, really important that we didn't give them second chances.
33, you were right, yeah. I was told there'd be no math, but
I didn't embarrass myself. But yeah, it's really important that we didn't give them second chance opportunities, especially with 33 and 34 for them are really great players, and they play really hard. And so to be able to hold them to one every time we were down the court, that was super important. I think that was really the biggest difference maker. At halftime we said, we know they might make a run here, and it's really important that we can withstand that. And how we start the second half, the first 3 minutes of the third quarter is super, super important. And they took care of business.
Before I hand it off to Tyler, another question I have, Coach, is, we talked about before, and we saw it here, the lineup changes. How do you get the players to buy into that? They've bought into a new system offensively. They're buying into the discipline. They're buying into the defensive. But how are they buying into, okay, for today, things up? And, because you had players like Knable and Green not see the court to the very end, and everybody else, again, how are you getting that to work so well?
Yeah, I think they know that, the college game is about strategy a little bit. We talked about that too, and that it's about matchups a lot of the time. And we're trying to work on matchups. And Addie did a great job, and Grace still came off the bench, did a great job. E had a great move at the end, stuff we've been working on in practice. And so they're still putting all of that together. And I was really proud of them of just staying energized, even if people weren't getting maybe their normal minutes. Because at the end of the day, we want to win. And we want to put our players in a position to succeed. And that first group of 5 was really doing well early on, and so we rode them pretty hard, but we had to get them some breaks here and there. And I thought, the quicker stretches that some of our players came in off the bench, they still gave us great minutes, even if they weren't as long of stretches as maybe they've seen in the first 5 games, 6 games. But yeah, I was just really proud of them overall.
Yeah, and then obviously you talk about the rebounds, not the second chance points, but talk about it defensively. This is the lowest that you've held a team so far this young season. What's it like being like, hey, now we're showing that our defensive system works. Now we just got to improve on it and just keep on trying to make sure, hey, we're not letting these teams score.
Yeah, I know we talked on this past Saturday about discipline in the half court, and I thought we did a much better job of that. And when we use our press to fuel our offense too, that fuels a lot of points for us. We want to score. We want to score a lot of points, and we want to push in transition. Wheaton's a great half-court defensive team, and so we said, even if they make a shot, we're pushing as hard as we can so that we can't let them set up in that half-court defense. And I thought Emma and Lauren both did a great job in that point guard spot, just continuing to push. Our guards ran in transition. Our 5-man ran down the floor, was in a position to get offensive boards. And so, yeah, everything just clicked, and it was a lot of fun, I think, to be a part of for everybody.
Another fun one I want to ask, Coach, and not to keep you longer than usual, but when you have a win like this, what's the conversation tomorrow? What's the conversation Friday to not let this get to their heads and say, okay, that was one game, that's the start of conference, but we have a long way to go to maintain this momentum.
Yeah, we are. I already said it in the huddle. I already talked about practice tomorrow. We have to be able to sustain that level of play to compete in the CCAW. I mean, the conference is really, really competitive. I know we talked about it earlier today about having 2 teams in the top 25. Wheaton's right there as well. Carroll's up there. And so for us to be able to compete, we have to do it every day in practice to be able to carry it into a game.
Yeah, and then, of course, obviously, a game like this is a statement win. What is this trying to prove? Were you trying to prove anything today just by the amount of offense and defense that you were able to do, or just being like, hey, this is what I'm here to do?
Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit. We have this big opportunity to host a 5-0 team on our home court. But we also talked about how in conference, every game is a battle, regardless of anybody's record at any given time. We just want to go 1-0 on that day. And I think the same thing applies to practice, too. We want to win practice because then that carries over to the game. And we can't let this be our statement win. Of course, I think it does send a message a little bit that, we're going to compete, but we can't let this be it.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I'm sure you'll send this one to Mom and Dad and say, hey, I know it's your last season, but you got to watch this one on replay. Congrats on the huge win, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Thank you.
All right, that was Coach after a No easier way to say it. A huge, huge victory. Again, we thank you all for being here. A absolute dominating win for Carthage, 77-37. As we wrap this one up from Kenosha, we want to thank all of you for tuning in on this Wednesday evening. For executive producer Mike Love, producer John Voinovich, my color commentator Tyler Sorensen, director Allison, graphics Morgan, replay Morgan as well, Jessica and Ty on camera. Of course, I'm Peter Ferrari, and this program has been a presentation of Firebird Broadcast Productions and Carthage College, copyright 2023. Have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you all on Saturday.